All right, so Rogue's being in a bit of a state of flux right now. Lots of changes going on, lots of buffs, nerfs, all that stuff. Still wanted to make a guide for the build I'm currently using, which is a poison-based Twisting Blades. It's a little more specialized towards single target damage, but it does have the capability of AoE clearing. So it's not bad for nightmare dungeons, all that kind of stuff. It can pretty much do everything. There will be classes that do add clear way better, but the single target damage for bosses, world bosses, stuff like that, I find it's going to be hard to match with this build. But yeah, Twisting Blades, Poison, I've been enjoying it. I made the switch just before I did Capstone Dungeon 2 to get into World Tier 4. And it really did well for me. I wanted to do it a little bit before that to get used to it because I switched from a Shadow Imbuement build for my leveling. So I switched to this around 55-ish, and then I was able to do the World Tier 4 Capstone Dungeon at level 58. So we'll show a little clip of the boss damage from that. But for now, we'll kind of go over what we've got going on here. We're gonna ignore Paragon board. I'm gonna have it linked in the build in the description. It's basically just something I'm toying with. It's not fully complete. It's not fully optimized. Everybody's Paragon boards, regardless of what build you follow, is likely going to be different based on your gear and stuff like that. So this for me is just rough. This is me just going through and trying to figure stuff out. I'm still trying to min-max stats here because I do want to add another board, which is Tricks of the Trade. And I do actually want the legendary node there too. So I wouldn't follow these Paragon boards too closely, but this is kind of what I'm working with at the moment. But we're going to go over the skill tree first. Pretty simple stuff. Puncture, I've been using that in all my builds since the beta. Really like Puncture. Easy way to apply vulnerable on demand. Simple as that. Just a few points up there. Down into Twisting Blades, which is obviously the core of the build. We've maxed that out. I've got 3 ranks from other stuff as well. But yeah, we go Twisting Blades into Enhanced Twisting Blades and then into Advanced Twisting Blades. This is the one that's been kind of in flux quite a bit with the cooldown and stuff. Originally, they nerfed it to 0.1, but then they didn't actually apply it. And then they finally fixed it and applied it. But now it's only giving you credit for passing through the first enemy or something like that. So we'll see where that goes. Build still feels great, so it doesn't feel like we've been hit too hard by the nerfs. Sturdy, just great for close range damage reduction, which you are pretty much always close range, so it's nice to be a little tankier there, especially as a squishy rogue. Siphoning Strikes, another way for the sustainability. Healing for your max life is pretty nice, and we do crit fairly often with our Twisting Blades, so it really helps us keep alive when we're fighting in giant packs. We move on to Shadow Step, which is huge for us because it's our only form of unstoppable right now, at least in my build. I do have a legendary aspect that gives us an extra charge of this. I don't have it on yet, but I have the actual legendary. I just got to get a good pair of boots to put it on. But this is really our only form of unstoppable, which is usually what kills us. So having an extra charge of this will be a big deal, especially because I use this as a form of damage dealing, right? Because whatever we hit, we're going to do crit chance against them. I don't really have to use this in wave clearing, really. It's more for bosses. But yeah, having an extra charge of this, just in case you do use it and then you get stunned and you have no way to get out, it's nice having another option there. We go into Enhanced Shadow Step and then into Methodical Shadow Step. Pretty simple there. Weapon Mastery, we have all our points into that, maxed out on that. I'm still trying to decide whether I like daggers or swords. Swords are nice because it's just increased damage overall. I do eventually want the Doombringer Unique, which is a sword, so that's going to take advantage of that. But then I don't know if I want a dagger in the other hand or another sword. Daggers are nice. I'm using 2 daggers right now. 20% increased damage to healthy enemies. The only thing with dealing damage to healthy enemies, it's only for that first, what is it, 20% of their health. And then you kind of lose that. Whereas swords, that 12% all the time is nice. But then you go into items, actual intrinsic perks. So this is 30% damage to close enemies. So having 2 of those is kind of nice. I forget what swords are. I think it's just critical strike damage. But I kind of like daggers more for that damage to close enemies. So I'm still kind of testing that, seeing where that goes. But for now, I'm running daggers, mainly because I haven't really been able to find an upgrade. I'm kind of in the point now where my gear is really trying to min-max, and it's been hard to find upgrades. So I've been stuck with the same pieces of gear for a while. Another one I've been toying with. So I originally had Shadow Clone. I wasn't really that impressed with it. My damage stayed really good even after I switched off of Shadow Clone, and I put that point into dash instead, just to have some more mobility, ways to get around, stuff like that. And it's felt like a really good change. With Shadow Step, you need a target to be able to teleport to it, and if you're trying to run away from a pack, kind of hard to do anything with that. So having the dash to get away from that has been really good. And then just moving around the dungeon, being able to dash faster has been really nice. One point I'm not 100% sure on here is enhanced dash. So enemies damaged by dash take 15% increased critical strike damage from you for 5 seconds. Nice against bosses and stuff, I think, but you'll see bosses don't really last very long, so I don't think this is all that effective. And when you're dashing through mobs and stuff, you might hit a few, and then you damage them with your twisting blades with the AoE. Could be nice, but might also not be necessary as well. So I might put this point somewhere else. I'm not too sure where yet. Maybe somewhere down here. I don't know. I don't know where I'd put it. For now, I'm leaving it. We could go into more vulnerable damage. That might be nice too, but I think I'd want to look at something that might help with our ad clear a little bit more, because our boss damage is completely fine. But that's something I'm still trying to decide. Haven't decided quite yet there. Moving on to Dark Shroud. I really have this mainly for the crit chance, but honestly, these things disappear so fast. Even the crit chance, even the damage reduction, it's usually gone really quick. So I don't really know how effective it is. I'd have to do a bit more testing, but for now I got 1 point in that. I try and keep this up whenever I can, whenever it's off cooldown. And especially with the Twisting Blade cooldown reduction, it helps keep these up a bit more that way. But yeah, they disappear real fast. But yeah, Enhanced Dark Shroud and then Countering Dark Shroud are what we got going on there. We're maxed out on Exploit, which is deal 18% increased damage to healthy and injured. So a little bit of everything, which is nice. I have 1 point in Malice right now, which is 3% increased damage to vulnerable, just because I had an extra point. Moving on here to Poison Imbuement. So I have this maxed out, and then a bunch of points from other stuff as well. Yeah, it's just it's nice for damage against single targets as well. Yeah, it's been really good for me. Shadow damage, just it was nice for ad clear in the beginning, but honestly we really don't need it. You'll kind of see. I'm going to do a run after this. This has been doing fine for me, especially because so the biggest thing I think is with poison damage, this kind of takes the base of your Twisting Blades, which does a lot of damage. And there's a lot more affixes, stuff like damage reduction from poisoned enemies, more damage against targets that are poisoned, stuff like that, that you just don't really get with poison or with Shadow that I've seen. So that's kind of why I've been sticking with this, and it's been doing well for me. Enhanced Poison Imbuement, just an extra second of poison there, and then Lucky Hit. Poison Imbue skills have up to a 30% chance to apply double the amount of poison damage over time, and when we're doing a ton of damage with Twisting Blades, that's kind of nice. Got a bunch of points to Deadly Poison to increase our poison damage there. Poison enemies deal 15% less damage. Again, we're pretty squishy, so any sort of damage reduction helps. and then just a single point into the attack speed. I might put an extra point into that just to help us get to that 15% quicker, but again, I'd have to do some testing. I don't know if we're really hitting 15 enemies to be able to get that max stack at 1%. Might be a little bit easier to cut that in half with 2%, but again, something I'd have to test. We've got the precision imbuement. Imbuement skills gain a 9% increased critical strike chance. Again, with our twisting blades, it's going to be hitting a bunch of things, so having higher crit chance on that is always nice. We move down here, got a little bit of innervation, up to 30% chance to gain 8 energy, always nice on a lucky hit. And twisting blades has a decent lucky hit, and it's hitting a bunch, so I don't really have any resource management issues too much that I've noticed. You just got to be smart with how you're doing your rotations and stuff, and it's usually not too bad. And then obviously these help as well. Every 100 energy you spend grants you 10% increased lucky chance for 5 seconds. So again, kind of synergizes with this, gives you a better chance of proccing that. And then just a single point into non-physical damage you deal has a 5% increased lucky hit chance. So again, with the poison and stuff. Moving on, we've got adrenaline rush. While moving, you gain 5% increased energy regeneration. So even just while you're moving around in a dungeon, you're gaining energy back, which is nice. And then we got a couple points into haste. So when you're above 50% energy, you have 10% increased movement speed. So while you're kind of roaming the dungeons at full, helps you get around a little bit better. And then while below 50% energy, you gain attack speed, which with twisting blades, trying to get those twisting blades in and spinning is the attack speed is really nice. And then finally, the key passive, lucky hit, dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy, has up to a 30% chance to cause an explosion, dealing 23% of the original damage to them and surrounding enemies. So again, kind of helps with your ad clear, but also helps with single targets as well. And again, you're going to see we melt bosses pretty quick. And then we have some aspects with this that make that explosion of damage heal us as well. So again, just some more sustain. But yeah, that's where I've got points here. Again, kind of debating whether I remove enhanced dash, maybe put it into, what was I looking at? The alchemical advantage. Yeah, just to potentially get even more attack speed. So the reason for that is one of my biggest issues I feel with this build is sometimes it's a little hard to get the twisting blades going. So you have to get in, you have to hit something, and then after, what is it, 1.5 seconds? Yeah, 1.5 seconds, the blades return, and then they do their spin. So it can be hard when you jump into a pack at first and you don't have any twisting blades going. It can be hard to kind of get that going and start doing your AoE damage. So having faster attack speed to do that is kind of nice. And we have some other stuff in place to help us with that as well, which I'll show you on the aspects here. So these aren't all set in stone. You can probably pick and choose quite a bit, but this is just what I've been using and it's been working really well. But yeah, we start with our enshrouding helmet here. So gain a free dark shroud every 3 seconds when standing still. Each dark shroud grants 4% increased damage reduction. So that was a max roll that I actually just made this helmet now. We finally got an upgrade to our helmet. I didn't know if I wanted to put that max roll on there, but I did it anyway. So yeah, just helps us get those dark shrouds back. If we're standing still, I don't really stand still too often, so I don't know how good that's going to be for me, but that's what's on there for now. Even if you're out of combat, you can kind of just sit there and let it come back, but I don't tend to stand still very much. We've got the siphon victuals. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull this up on the on my actual build instead. I think it'll be a little bit easier to see just the aspects by themselves and their names. Let me grab it here. There it is. So it'll be a little bit easier to see here. So yeah, aspect of the siphon victuals. Damaging a vulnerable enemy with a core skill has up to a 10 to 20% chance to drop a healing potion. So pretty nice for getting more potions while you're hitting. Most things you're hitting are usually vulnerable. Maybe not so much in big groups, but bosses and stuff like that. Just gives you those extra potions. Blade Dancer's aspect on my gloves right now. This is a very important piece. Without the orbiting twisting blades, it can be rough to do your AoE ad clear. So yeah, this is on my gloves right now. Big part of the build right there. Even when I was leveling, until I got this, it was a bit rough, but once I got it, it kind of changed everything. Cruel Sustenance, explosions from victimized key passive heal you for X life for each enemy damaged up to a maximum of X life. So again, that was the one I was talking about where with our key passive, the explosion of damage can help heal us. Nice for bosses, nice for groups, just extra ways to heal. These are the boots I was talking about. Ravager's aspect. Shadow Step has an additional charge. Killing an enemy with Shadow Step refunds the charge and increases the damage of Shadow Step by 1 to 6% for 2 seconds, up to 15 to 30%. I don't really kill anything with Shadow Step too often. It's mainly just for mobility and getting out of stuns and stuff. So the second part doesn't really help me too much, but that additional charge, considering this is our only unstoppable, is pretty huge. Accelerating aspect, critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed by 15 to 25% for 5 seconds. So again, trying to get our twisting blades going can be rough. So having that attack speed to build that up and get those blades going a little bit quicker is nice. Now this is a big one. As I was playing this build, it was pretty good. It was solid. It was doing what it needed to do, but I got to the point where I started getting really squishy, and I was almost getting one shot by elite packs a lot of times. Especially you jump in there, you try and get things going. It can be rough if you don't have those blades spinning, getting your sustain going. You go down pretty quick. So adding this, I'll show you my actual roll on it. Damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier absorbing up to 6,460 health, or damage in this case. For 10 seconds, this effect can only apply once every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds is great. Every time you jump into an elite pack, this pops. And again, 6,460 damage absorbed. My health is only 5,189, so it effectively gives me double the health when I jump into an elite pack. And it really gives me that survivability to get my blades going to take that pack down. This was probably one of the biggest legendary aspect applications that I had, and it really changed things and made things a lot better for me, because I was dying a lot to just elite packs getting stun locked or whatever, jumping into a pack, which you kind of have to do. This just gave me so much more survivability, and then putting it on the amulet as well gives you a 50% bonus to that number. I wish it would show you what it would be without that bonus, but I don't want to do the math. I'll let you guys do the math. But yeah, this thing's been fantastic for my survivability, and obviously if you're dead, you can't be doing damage, so you can do all the damage you want with this build, but if you're dead, it doesn't really matter. So this gave me that survivability to keep going. So that's been absolutely huge for me, getting into the later content. Edge Masters, this was just disabled, so the test we're going to do here kind of sucks, but skills deal up to 10 to 20% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit when you have full primary resource. I think I have a pretty decent roll on mine. I forget what it is. 16%. So not quite the max roll, but 16% increased damage when you're at max resource, which with Inner Sight happens fairly often. That extra damage is pretty huge. So this is a really good aspect. Unfortunately, they disabled it. I don't know why exactly, but they disabled it for now, and I guess we wait for them to re-enable it before we get to take advantage of it again. But moving on to aspect of corruption, your imbuement skill effects have 20 to 40% increased potency against vulnerable enemies. So again, we're making things vulnerable, so our poison is going to have 20 to 40% increased potency against them. Now we get into weapons. So this is one I'm not really sure what's going on with Doombringer. There's a lot of talk that certain uniques aren't available. I've gotten a lot of uniques, multiples of pretty much every unique I could get for my rogue, and I have not seen a single Doombringer. So a lot of people are thinking stuff like Doombringer aren't actually available yet, or there's something we can't quite do yet. Does it activate after killing the level 100 Lilith capstone? Nobody's really sure just yet. So we're kind of waiting on that. But I thought this sword looked really, really good. You've got core skill damage on it. You've got damage. You've got lucky hit, which is a chance to heal. You've got max life on there as well. So it's very balanced. You got damage and you got sustainability, which is huge. And then you got the lucky hit on there, which is 15 to 25% chance to deal X shadow damage to surrounding enemies and reduce their damage done by 20% for 5 seconds. So again, you're now hitting things around you with shadow, and there are some other synergies you can find with that stuff with shadow and poison. I forget what the actual aspect is, but there's some potential other synergies there too that I'd have to look into. But just the fact that you are now making those things do 20% less damage to you for 5 seconds is pretty huge. So this is my number one sought after right now to fill into a slot, but unfortunately, I don't know if it's just not available yet or what, but I have not personally been able to find one, and it doesn't seem like anybody else has yet either. But that's a huge one to keep an eye out for. I am very looking forward to getting this and trying it out and seeing how it performs, but that's the main chase I'm after right now. And then lastly, bursting venoms. Lucky hit critical strikes with poison imbued skills have up to a 10% chance to create toxic pools that deal X poisoning damage over 3 seconds to enemies within while standing in the pool. Poison imbuement has no cooldown and no charge limit. This is another pretty big one too to help with AoE. So basically I just stand there spinning my twisting blades and spamming my poison as much as possible, and when those pools come out, I can just keep spamming my poison to keep applying it, keep dropping pools, and it's pretty solid. So that's what we got going on there. And then specialization, inner sight's really good. There's been some nerfs to it, stuff like that, but it's still very, very good. Gems wise, it's pretty much the same for most classes, it seems, at least from the classes I've played on the side. But weapons, you want that critical strike damage against vulnerable. Everybody's doing vulnerable. You kind of have to. So yeah, emeralds in my weapons. Rubies for the extra life, again, especially on rogue being very squishy. It's nice to have that extra life. So I've got all rubies in my armors. And then lastly, in the jewelry, I used to have diamonds, but there's been a lot of talk lately that resistances aren't really doing as much as they should probably. And it's actually more effective to go armor. So skulls in the jewelry for the armor. And that's pretty much it for that. Again, Paragon board will be here. I'm going to link this in the description if you want to take a look at it. This is not where I'm at right now, but this is kind of my planned route, and I'm still kind of working on it to make sure I can take enough points to get the benefits from my nodes or from my glyphs. Still a lot of testing to do here. I'm probably going to wait till I get to level 100 and get to fully test it all out with my points. I'm going to have to pull points out of certain places. There's a lot to go over here. Again, most people are going to have a very different board, regardless of whether the same class, same build, whatever. So just keep that in mind. Use this as more of something you take in inspiration from for yourself. I wouldn't follow it directly, especially because I'm not really done with it yet. But yeah, that's kind of it. I've been loving this build. I have a very hard time playing anything but this rogue, just because it's so fun to play, highly mobile, really good damage against single targets. I'd love to be able to try and solo a world boss. I don't think that's possible, but I'd love to try and solo a world boss just to see. But I'll show you a little quick video here of us doing the World Tier 4 Capstone Dungeon. This guy did give me a lot of trouble. This is before I had that Elite Barrier shield aspect. Probably would have helped me a lot, but I had to be very careful with him because he potentially one-shot me in most situations. But yeah, you're gonna see, so he's level 70, I'm level 58, so quite a big gap. I wanted to kind of show a decent gap of level to, so just so you get an idea of how much damage this build can put out. Again, this is going to take some this is not going to be an exact preview of the build, just because there's been so many nerfs and adjustments, but you'll see that it's pretty solid. I'm going to leave the music off just because I was playing music and I don't want to get DMCA struck here, so just keep an eye on it. Main rotation here is just left clicking and right clicking anytime I have energy available, and then just spamming my E button to drop those poison pools. Crit striking with the Q every once in a while, just to reposition. But you see how much damage it actually does. And then here I was in a little bit of trouble, but I had enough poison damage in that he just died to the poison. Yeah, it's got some really crazy damage output, and this was before I even had the build that I have now, so this was a lot earlier. This was what, 20 levels ago. So yeah, you can see there's a lot of damage coming out there. I love it, and it's like that with every boss. So I also have a nightmare dungeon up. Oh, Gathering Legion. I'm gonna skip Gathering Legion for you guys though. We're gonna go do this dungeon quick. I made sure to pick one that has a boss at the end, just so you can kind of see how quickly bosses go down. But yeah, if you don't want to watch any sort of preview, that's kind of it for the build. I really enjoy it. I'm gonna keep working with it. I'm not a big build maker, build crafter, whatever you want to call it. But I'm trying to get into it with Diablo, so if you guys have suggestions on what I could do better with these builds, by all means feel free to let me know. But yeah, let me know how the builds go for you. It does take some getting used to, because again, one of the biggest things is trying to get your twisting blades going. You have to learn that you're going to be a little vulnerable for the first few seconds until those blades start twisting and orbiting around you. But once they do, there's a lot of damage output. And again, we're gonna have enough damage and AoE to clear decently well in this, but not quite as good as other classes. I always try and pop my E and my R just to make sure they're up, my Dark Shroud and my Poison, just whenever I can think about it. So again, it takes a little bit to get the blades spinning, and then you do. Again, always focus these guys. Those buffers make it really hard to kill anything. I'm gonna try and stop the loot goblin in me from looting everything too. We'll try and get through this. So you can see, we just, anytime we can, we spam our E, make sure that poison's on the ground.
I need more time.
Little rough there for a second. We gotta, oh no, oh. Little rough there, the charger at the end. But yeah,
I need more time.
Can be a little bit squishy at times. But yeah, we're doing a what is it, tier 28. I gotta pick up my ancestrals. I need to find some gear replacements.
I'm not ready yet.
We're doing a tier 28, which I believe is 53 levels above, which seems to be the optimal the optimal level gap that you want. So
I need more time.
our biggest threats are usually anything that CCs us down. So like in that last little section there, I probably wouldn't have died if I had another charge of our Shadow Step, which is something I could have right now, but I'm trying to find a good pair of boots to put it on. I don't want to put it on just anything. So yeah, always try and apply your Dark Shroud when you can, and then always try and apply your Poison when you can, just to have it ready to go going into packs, because you need those early advantages of just having things ready and going. You don't want to have to do too much startup when you jump into a pack. So again, having dash, even just to move around these dungeons, is kind of nice as well.
I need more time.
Okay, I guess it was just those two.
I need time to do that.
I don't know if there's too many changes I'd make just yet. With this build, again, I don't really have any major complaints aside from sometimes being a little too squishy and getting stun locked. But I think Shadow Step having an extra charge will really help with that. So hopefully I can find a nice pair of boots sooner rather than later to get that going. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints with this. It's got pretty solid sustain. It's got really good, especially single target damage. But you can see, like, we're not really having that much difficulty clearing stuff. It does take a little more work because you got to bounce around targets is a little bit more than other classes. But see, getting feared there and then immediately frozen is kind of rough when we don't only have one charge of Shadow Step. But usually we're good enough to survive that. Hey, maybe I'll get lucky and Doombringer will drop here. I doubt it, but you never know. So you can see how it's a little slow there when you first start trying to get those twisting blades going. It's probably the biggest issue. Gotta try and get this frozen guy out of here. So I actually do a little bit less damage when I'm not doing, when I don't have poison going, just because of the different affixes I have on my gear that increase the damage I do to poison targets. So having things poison definitely makes things die a lot quicker.
I need more time.
Okay, so this is gonna be a central one. Gotta go to the middle to deposit this. I think this is the one with the 3. I think. Yeah.
I need time to do that.
The nice thing is too, every once in a while I'll pop a potion, but for the most part, when I'm coming out of a fight, I'm usually pretty topped up. I usually don't have too many issues staying healthy.
I need more time.
And then again, with this barrier, the elite barrier, it's even better.
I need more time.
It's just there's a lot of sustain, which is very nice.
I need more time.
All right, one more. I think it should be
I'm not ready yet.
down this way. Those barriers also count as elites too. They're the buffers, I should say. They count as elites, so that really helps when you get the bubble, when you have to jump into the back of a pack to try and take those out. Even if you just jump in, kill them, and dash out again, that little extra shield is huge.
I need more time.
It's not even a little extra, it's a lot extra.
I'm not ready yet. need more time. I'm not ready yet.
Well, a bunch of ancestral boots there.
I'm not ready yet.
I need those upgrades. All right, let's go do this boss now. This should be pretty quick. Don't really need that. All right, everything's up.
I need more time.
There you go. There you go. Nice and quick. I've heard they're going to be adding boss damage numbers, like an after world boss damage number kind of thing. It'd be nice to see that because I want to know how much damage I'm actually doing to world bosses, because I feel like I output quite a bit, but I don't really have a way to check for sure on my own. So it's all kind of just speculation. So hopefully they add that sooner rather than later, but it's only rumors that I've heard. I don't know if that's actually true. But yeah, there you go. I really like the damage output on this, especially against bosses. It does decent in ad clear. There's definitely classes that do ad clear better, but we can kind of do it as well. Really liking this build. Super fun to play. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, let me know. Comments, concerns, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'd love to hear how the build performs for everybody else. Yeah, thanks for watching.